Welcome back. So in this video, we're going to look at the product and market and competition components in the screening process. Okay, again, looking at it from the venture capitalist perspective, but with an eye towards giving advice to entrepreneurs. So let's talk about the product stuff first. Let's look at the more objective or more rational aspects. So first of all, if you produce something, those venture capitalists are going to want to check out the functionality, right? Like if you produce an app, they're going to want to play with the app. They're going to see, does it work? Does it not, crash or get buggy? And does it have the bell and whistles that the venture capitalists are expecting? Or if you're producing an actual physical product, they want to play with it. They want to see how it works, okay? They also are going to check your intellectual property protection. Do you have patents filed, patents pending, copyrights, etc.? Then they're going to look at your problem opportunity statement. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that come out and they say they've got the perfect product to solve this problem, but it's not always a real problem. And I gave, one example is an entrepreneur who wanted to pitch this idea of a ramen booster. And the idea was that ramen could be spruced up in some way because it was bad and cheap. And so you could buy these vegetables that were pre-soaked in soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, and hot sauce, and then you just put them in the ramen, and then it made the ramen, with the flavor plus more vegetables. Well, here's the thing. That's not necessarily a real problem. A lot of people like the way ramen tastes already. And if you wanted more vegetables, why couldn't you just buy some dried vegetables and buy your own soy sauce? Why would you need to pay a premium for that? So they had a great product that solved a non-existing problem, right? So you need to make sure that it's a real problem. And that goes back to going to a lot of business pitch competitions. And if you want to prepare for a business pitch competition, check out my video playlist on business pitches on my channel. They also want to check your value proposition. Is whatever you have to offer significantly different enough to the point that people are willing to pay a premium for that product or service? Okay. They're going to check the feasibility and the desirability. Okay, great. You've got something that solves a real problem and it's significantly different from the competition, but can it actually be done? I used to always laugh about Ali G. He went to a bunch of venture capitalists and he said he had a great idea for a hoverboard. Well, the hoverboard may be a great idea, but the engineering doesn't exist yet for that. At least not as far as I know it doesn't. So that would obviously not be something that's feasible. And then you need to check the desirability. Is this something that customers will actually pay for? They're going to check the scalability. Is this a business that can grow and expand rapidly? Let me tell an example of something that's not scalable to illustrate. There's a lady where I grew up, she's an acupuncturist. Well, she doesn't want to have employees or expand her practice, so when she fills up her calendar with appointments, her business doesn't expand anymore. I mean, she can basically handle about 40 clients a week, and then that's it. She's not interested in any more business. That's a non-scalable business and probably not relevant for venture capital. Now, I also heard a story that before Uber was a big thing, there was a very similar service, or very similar services that existed in Austin and I think Portland both. And those services only worked within those cities. So you were good as long as you were in Austin or in Portland, but once you got outside those city limits, you couldn't use the service anymore, so it wasn't scalable. Uber's advantage was it was able to take a similar business model and expand it to all over the world, so it was a scalable business model. They're also going to check unit economics. Does it have something like an economy of scale, an economy of learning? In other words, it gets cheaper the more iterations or the more units that you produce, or do those costs stay about the same, or does it actually get more expensive? They want to know about that, right? Economies of scale can be very appealing, especially when we talk about scalability. So can economies of learning. They're also going to think about your value chain, okay? Is this something where you need to produce all the components in-house, or is it something that you can produce all the stuff in an open market and possibly get it for cheaper? That goes back to transaction cost economics. Check out my video on transaction cost economics on my channel if you'd like to know more about that. Now let's talk about the subjective aspects with the product. Again, this is that peach problem. The entrepreneur has to be able to explain all the cool things that they're doing in a way that the venture capitalists can understand. They have to be able to explain the functionality. They have to be able to explain the problem statement. Because if they don't explain it correctly, the venture capitalists will simply move on to the next thing. Okay? So the explanation has to be there. And the venture capitalists are also going to be thinking, like, okay, does this work for me or not? Right? And this is where their bias comes in. Because a worm has to appeal to a fish, not to a fisherman or fisherwoman. So how should I put it? The venture capitalist may say, I love the product and I would use it, therefore it's a go. Or they may say, no, I wouldn't use the product, therefore it's not a go. And I hate that, right? I see all these pitches that get ruined because, well, I wouldn't use it. Well, if you're not even the right target market, put your biases aside for a second, right? There's all sorts of wonderful products out there that, certain individuals don't use. That doesn't mean they're a bad idea, right? I heard some story about, Netflix and Blockbuster. Netflix was trying to sell their business to Blockbuster, and I guess they got laughed at. Well, nobody's going to use it. I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't watch movies on the internet. I'd rather watch on the VHS. Well, obviously that was the wrong assessment. Okay, so you do have to think about who you're pitching to and try to explain your problem and your product in a way so that they can relate to it, even if not on a personal level. They can understand how other people could relate to it. That's huge. And you've got to think about this too. A lot of venture capitalists are going to be looking for weaknesses to screen out certain businesses. But here's the thing. Are you looking at a product that has strengths or no weaknesses? A product that has no weaknesses may not have any strengths either, and therefore it's not really a good product, right? It's just average, it's mediocre. So what you need to do as the entrepreneur is A, not have any weaknesses, but also highlight the strengths in such a way that's going to appeal to that venture capital investor. Okay. Now, let's talk about the market and competition. There's some rational aspects here too, right? Of course, there's going to be some data on the market and competition, right? You can look at publicly traded companies in your sector. Of course, you can use Value Line, IBISWorld, BizMiner to get all that data together. And of course, the venture capital companies also have their own research arms, and they'll be able to identify that stuff too. Now, here's the other thing that you've got to look at. They're going to look at investing in your company, and they're going to look at the rivals out there. So they're thinking, okay, is this the company that I can buy so that it becomes the next big thing? Or is this the company that I can buy and grow it a little bit and then sell it to one of the rivals in a trade sale? These are things that they're going to be assessing. And you as the entrepreneur need to be thinking about that too, because once they get some of that ownership, they have a right to dictate some of the strategies to whether you're going to be the next Facebook or you're going to be a company that's sold to Facebook, right? They're going to look at the geographical scope of operations, again, thinking about scalability when it comes to market conditions. Okay? And of course, they'll do their conventional strategic group maps. If you don't know what a strategic group map is, check out my channel. That's basically a way to visually illustrate competition and key success factors among rival firms. And they may do the classic Porter's 5 forces model. Right, so they're gonna put all that together. Again, looking at industry and market conditions. They'll look at the political environment and what you're trying to do, and they'll also look at the innovation rate of your particular industry. Right, if the innovation rate is growing so fast, and they're thinking, okay, it takes 6 months to get a deal to go through. By that time, the product's obsolete. They're going to put that to the side. Okay? Whereas other venture capital groups really specialize in those companies that are in rapidly innovating environments. So you need to make sure there's a good fit there. Look at some of the subjective aspects. The timing of the market entry. They're going to ask, is this the right time to enter this particular market? Or is it too early, so they don't think that the market is mature enough for this firm to come in? Or is it too late? That thing is so passé, it's so yesterday. They're going to look at the different competitive advantages, once again, going back to the value proposition of a particular product. And they're going to look at the imitation risk. Is it easy for somebody to copy what this person is doing or not? Right? Because you don't want to invest a bunch of money into a company, and then once you've got it out to market, a rival comes in and just imitates the thing away. You don't want that either. And of course, there's always that false consensus bias. A bunch of venture capital people may say, yeah, I think this is a bad idea, don't we all agree? We all agree. And then you lose out. And a lot of venture capital groups say, well, if only I had invested in Facebook. If only I had invested in WhatsApp. If only. Look, we all make mistakes, including venture capitalists. And so they look at their portfolio, but then they're also going to be thinking about their anti-portfolio, right? The things that they didn't invest in that they wish they'd invest in. And so you might want to be familiar with that track record as going into the pitch. We don't want to miss the train with another Facebook. So here's what I've got to offer you. Okay? So that's your marketing competition. In our next video, we will look at the business and sales model. As always, give me that thumbs up if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and comment down below. And here's my question for you. How would you decide feasibility and desirability of a particular product? Right? What are the trains of thought that you would have? I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.